Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. Today I'll set up, play and review the game Clash of Galliformes. We're playing as ginormous bird turkey things and also with our tribal leader up in northern Sweden. This is a game for 1 to 6 players. I've set it up as a 2 initially. Lots of other components you might have seen in my unboxing, teaser, trailer, preview video. Of course, do check out the other birds that I'll be showing you. They are available in those other videos as well. So if you're playing this game as a 2, it's going to be slightly different typically. You can play with all of these 10 player boards. I happen to have set it up like that. But you can just, if you're playing with 2 as an example, you're placing out 2 pieces each. You can place them wherever you want. You don't have to make them a nice looking shape like this. I've zoomed in a bit just so you can see some detail. But if you're playing as a 3, you're going to be placing obviously 2 out again, so it's placing 6. Same with 4, obviously 8 pieces, 5 is 10, and with 6 players, you're placing a piece out, but the last 2 players are not placing any pieces out too. They recommend, and I do recommend, you play over a total of 20 rounds, and you can play as many as you like, but 20 rounds is definitely enough because what can happen is someone can get eliminated, in which case if you're playing as a 2, they can choose to respawn as a different bird. So for example, I'm going to have the opposition here playing as the quails, they've just played on the board. And yes, you can do that. In this case, they happen to get eliminated around 4 or 5. And in that case, they had a buster catch, so they chose to call at that point. So you're going to play as various coloured birds. Now, these are specific to those things. So if you have a preference on colours, you kind of are limited to what you want to do. But the quails happen to be these ones because in total you can have 5 big birds and 9 small birds. And I've left this baggie out just to show you where you can put some cubes. So, without further ado, let me show you one already created. So this is an end of game state. So I played as the Capicales. In this case, they are stronger. The other ones only can have a strength of 3, so they're stronger, but they don't have as many birds, so you can't bring as many birds out. I'll tell you why that's important, because it's the most points at the end of the game wins, unless you're playing as, for example, a 2, and in which case someone might get eliminated. In addition to that, you also have defense. So I'm quite good on defense, so those quails only have 1, but remember, they could have multiple quails out, because they breed fast. The cost of getting them out is 4 food. Or 8 food. This is a 4x game, whereas the quails, for example, are 2 and 6. So they can have loads of them, and of course 2 of them can fight together, maximum 2 in this case, in which case their defense is still sometimes lower. But as you'll see, you can get upgrades, there's tech stuff you can do, there's engine building, etc. So what we're going to do is take all of your cubes and place them onto 0. So they're going to start off like this. So you start off with 0 food, 0 wood, and 0 coal or stone. And these start on 0 as well, but you always start off with you always have a nest, which you're going to pick up where you're going to place it anywhere you like. And you are starting off, in this case, with 2 food. Every round you're going to get 2 food. Like I said, food you're going to need to bring out more birds. You can do other stuff too. So what are you doing on the turn? Well, this is a game whereby you're trying to get puzzle pieces, in which case you're trying to get numbers. You're trying to get numbers 1 through to 9. If I take these off, this is a recess board. You can see where they go. So you're going to place them out, and then throughout the course of the game, you're trying to move around. And when you move around, that's the first thing you do in your turn. So there's 3 things you do in your turn. The first thing you do in order is you move. And when you move, what you're going to be doing is choosing to go up to and only 1 space. There's only 1 player aid available per language. So in this case, you can look through this. So you're going to move. You take up to 2 of your birds and move them 1 space. If there happens to be an enemy or maybe a neutral bird, in this case we have a neutral bird over here, then you still have to stop and have to fight it. It has a defense of literally just rolling a die. So we have a die here. So we happen to roll my die, and in my box, dice distance. If you want to see dice distancing, see how far dice roll and whether or not you might need a dice tray, check out the video coming for that. No hits. There's a 3, 2, and a 1 and 3 blanks. So I might get some extra hits. They might get some extra defense. So if you happen to defeat it, it comes off, and now I can move to space. It means I can further on and collect, in this case, a piece of basically a tech token. Because the game can also end if you happen to get all 9 numerals out. So you can have extra. There's going to go off to the side of the board. And each player is going to have a baggie, which I tend to put in 1 of each of these values. So you're trying to collect all of them. Of course, you could steal wherever someone else has put theirs out because they don't necessarily own them. But then as soon as you complete all 9 on a future turn, you can start actually doing this. So from that turn onwards, you can once per turn take out 1 of these tech pieces, these puzzle pieces, and once you've placed it down and got all 3 out, you get the benefit. So you can check out the rulebook for that, it's available, but basically you can get one of 5 different benefits, 5 different puzzles, 5 different things you can do, extra movement, extra fighting, that kind of stuff. So like I said, the first thing you're doing is movement. The next thing you're doing is basically an income phase, which I think would be better if it was the first thing you do in your turn. But basically, if I happen to have already had 2 wood production, I'll tell you how I do that in a second. Like this, I'd get myself 3 food. I would get myself 2 wood, and I would get myself 1 stone. Now you can spend stuff. So basically we've moved on a move, which might give us tokens. And also we give us outposts. So in this case, the reason why I do move first is you might go here, then you might, well actually do the last thing. So then you could maybe spend an outpost, which would cost you 2 food. So you bump down yourself for 2. And now you can bump yourself up. So you move, and then you are getting your income, and then you can spend that income to, in this case, get yourself an outpost. Now, why is outpost good? They're worth a point at the end of the game, and in this case, I've covered up a little space down here. This one represents food. So now what I can do is bump this along by 1, and of course, if I lose my outpost, it's going to drop down again, but that's something to be aware of. So you can get extra food bumps, you can get yourself extra wood, extra stone, whatever it might be. And like I said, it's a good thing to have out because it's going to help points into the game, as well as your engine build. Obviously, like I said, the various income streams you can get. The downside, or at least the temptation law to have from the opponents, is they can battle you. If you don't happen to be there, that's quite negative because they can steal stuff from you. They can steal tech from you, numbers from you, various other things by the side of your board, but never stuff that's already on your board. Everybody also starts off with one of 5 different tech tokens. So the game can end either when someone's got a whole puzzle piece out there and 2 tech, or we run out of 20 rounds, or like I said, someone eliminates and doesn't want to come back on the board. Just briefly on the art, by the way, this is actually the designer who did the art, Kim Jansen, who is behind Toadie's Games, who published this game, and also bringing out Scarce, coming out on, I think, July the 15th through crowdfunding. So coming back onto what you can spend stuff on, you can improve your strength. So when you fight, you can spend 2 food, and I think that is 3 wood, and then you can bring a cube onto there. If you bump up to this one, you're now getting 2 strength instead of 1 strength. In this case, you're bringing out this tech, which means from now on, you're getting a bump on food, and you're also getting an additional defense on your birds, not necessarily on your nests. You have this on outposts, you can defend your outpost better, and over here you can defend your nests better. Nests are important to defend because that's where your birds will spawn from. Like I said, to spend a food, so 4 food. So imagine I was up here, I can spend 4 food to bring myself out a new bird, or I can bring out a big bird spending 8 food. So that's a big one, and I can come on here too. So when you choose to move, a move action, as I mentioned, is only 1 space. However, if you have 2 birds in 1 space, a move action could be 1 goes there, and let's say 1 goes up here. That is only 1 move action. So this one can just go 1, 2, because I mentioned 2, you can normally only move 1 space, but something else you can do is once you hit a maximum of 10 of any resource, you can spend 10 to get yourself a bonus, and there's various little discs you can get which can go on your bird. From now on, this one, for example, can move up to 2 spaces rather than 1. I happen to also get this one out, which improves my defense. So that's something else you can do. Now, if you happen to destroy someone's nest, you can actually take some of their opponent's tech as well, or puzzle pieces. And there's another thing over here, which is this, the golden egg. You can get yourself 9 points if you give away either 1 puzzle piece or maybe 3 numerals, etc., and some tech tokens. So there's various other ways of actually mitigating maybe losing stuff. In terms of points at the end of the game, you're going to get yourself 9 points for a completed puzzle. You're also going to get yourself points for any of those numerals on the board as well, those numbers. You're also going to get yourself a point for each bird on the map, so anything on the terrain and on this game board here. As I mentioned, a point for outposts, 2 points for each completed technology. So over here I've got 2 over there, that's 4 points. 4 points if you play as 10 food at the end of all 3 tracks, so you need a total of 30 for 4 points there. And lastly, 9 points to the player who owns that golden egg. Now, if ever you have an income which bumps beyond here, you won't get any more than that, which did happen to me a few times, so you might as well spend it if you can. And for some of these places, some of these tech tokens, you actually need them to unlock some abilities. So in this case, this kind of little knife thing, I actually need that here. So I need to spend 2 food and 4 over here, so 4 wood, 2 food and 4 wood. To bump it up again, I need to spend 3 food, 5 wood, and I must have this item here too. So there's various things to do. So there's 6 different characters, 6 different asymmetric factions you can play as. Just briefly show you what they look like. All birds, basically aggressive birds in Sweden. The greater sage-sow grouse is very funny what videos on YouTube about those guys. Blue-eared pheasants and blood pheasants. Yeah, walk on the wild side. Google walk on the wild side, greater sage grouses. Very funny commentary going on there. Very fun screen printed birds here. And these are cardboard tokens. These cubes are effective. Like I said, it's recess boards which work very well. The theme, people say the theme's a bit odd, but it does kind of work. The whole idea is, in this case, I'm playing as an aggressive bird, so it makes sense I kind of go out and try and obviously leave maybe income behind me, or these kind of outposts. Equally, if you're playing as the quails, you know, you're weak, so you're trying to run away, you're just trying to multiply and get out of harm's way, and maybe attack back now and again, especially if you can choose to bump up various things. So these guys have a very good early start because they can get their income up early. These guys are sort of better later on, perhaps, if you can just pummel down through it again if you've got the relevant tech and you choose to go the right way in terms of tech. Also, of course, these are all different. So if you wanted a food strategy, trying and get out loads of birds, then in this case you might want to go, well, here's got 2 food, this one's got 3 food, that's quite interesting. So it's where you want to lull into the sense of security. Everyone also starts off with an ability. So the quails start off with extra movement. This one starts off with once per round you can actually get an attack, a bonus of 1 as well. It's even stronger. Of course, there's other ones which are quite attacky. There's other ones which are quite good at, well, not necessarily movement, but yes, getting out other birds cheaply. So, for example, this one is a bit cheaper to bring out birds, and it's still quite attacky as well. Again, the costs of actually bringing out these various things seem to be the same, I've noticed. So there's no difference going on there. So it's quite easy to keep track of what everybody else is spending stuff on as well. So you can always trade on your turn. You can actually say, hey, do you want a wood for a food? But a bit like the game, I guess, Catan, I don't tend to do it too much, but it's something I do occasionally. So this is going to have the Family Weight playlist, the AmassGames playlist, the How to Set Up Play and Review playlist, of course the Board Game Review playlist. Any questions, do let me know. Obviously YouTube is always best. Like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. The rulebook wasn't necessarily great. There's no examples in there. There's no even sort of credit section. But there was one thing that I did really like very much, and that is when you have a look at the kind of layout on a player board, the little flick here talking to you about a certain area. So that's very good. But sometimes, like battling, you know, a nest, you think a nest would be in the battle section, and it isn't. And the how to set up and play part of it, here's a battle section, is after setup, which is fine. But then they talk about all your actions before they talk to you about actually how to play, which is a little odd too. Interesting game. I think the player duration is about right. Once you've played it a few times, even I think on the second play, an hour would be about right. It did take us a couple of hours though, just to kind of get through some various bits. Obviously, I like the way these always join up, which is nice, very Totoro-like. And yeah, it kind of gives you a nice early idea of what to do. Basically, try and get those numbers, because someone might try to rush the game as well. Okay, so that has been Clash of Galliformes. I think you can find these up in Scotland as well. Obviously, check out the podcast for errata, check out the description on YouTube as well. Also head through to Instagram for more pictures, and also head through to TikTok, X, etc. But for now, back to the table.